My name is Helene Kalkstein and moved to Florida, Boca Raton, in 1985.
Helene, it's very nice to have you join us today. I'm Sandy Altner. I'm a volunteer interviewer with the Boca Raton Historical Society and Museum, and this project is the Jewish Oral History Project, which the Boca Raton Historical Society is piloting, and we are today April the 6th, 2016, and we are at Lynn University in their wonderful television studios here. So thank you very much for joining us. I wanted to start by asking you why you moved to Boca Raton and where you moved from.
Well, we lived in Spring Valley, New York, and we moved to Boca Raton because they were building a new synagogue, and my husband was ready to semi-retire. And we did come to Las Brisas, which is on Montoya Circle. The synagogue was not built at the time. It was supposed to be the Boca Raton Orthodox Synagogue. We were there, and then from that we started the Young Israel of Boca Raton in Florida, which was a well-kept secret, always the case. But we started it with four couples and one gentleman.
Could you tell me a little bit, first of all, tell me a little bit about your husband, what his interest was in moving to Florida, specifically for the synagogue?
Well,
what was his name?
My husband was an independent. He had a route up in New York, Connecticut. He sold automotive accessories.
And his name was?
Pardon?
What was his name?
His name was Milton Kalkstein, and I called him Milt, and everybody did. He was a wonderful person, and we came, and because we were going to retire, that was it. So that's why we came to Boca. There was all new to us. I mean, when I gave directions, Palmetto Park Road stopped. They had construction. It hadn't been extended yet. So it goes back a long time ago.
Now, you had a very specific neighborhood and a very specific community in mind when you moved here. Where did you move here from?
I moved here from, it was called Spring Valley, but now it's called Chestnut Ridge in New York. And we moved to the community because of an Orthodox synagogue being there. We knew that we would have to live close to the synagogue because we wouldn't drive on Shabbat. And so the community was going to prosper, we thought, which, was going to be and develop, because there was not really any Orthodox synagogue, any place. The only one in Boca at the time we came, we had Bethel, and that was a Reformed synagogue, but it was way east. And this was actually on right off Palmetto Park Road, power line, and that became the community. And Montoya Circle today, and at that time, was the place that there were Jewish people living there, but not an Orthodox community.
So when you first arrived to see what this was all about, what did you find in the Orthodox community in 1985 here?
We found that it was very pretty. And Montoya Circle is very interesting. It has different areas. I mean,
neighborhoods?
Neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a circle. And we found that it had no bakery, no supermarket, nothing that would be inviting for Orthodox people. We had to go to North Miami Beach, and then finally a bakery came in. And little by little, the people that were there were Jewish people living there, but of different parts of our Reformed, conservative. Not too many Orthodox people.
So when the Orthodox synagogue, the Boca Raton Synagogue, was constructed, it was really only a couple of years or so at that point before you arrived.
Right. It was in the process of being, and surprisingly enough, I don't know how it happened, but I can tell you that I was asked to go on the board and be the treasurer of the Boca Raton Orthodox Synagogue. And I often wonder why they chose me. I don't know. But we were there for a while, and then we decided that the people were from many different countries, South Africa, England, Iran, and their customs were different. And the synagogue progressed and we decided that we would need to have a synagogue that we would be comfortable in. And so my husband and I walked to Deerfield Beach, to the Young Israel there, because there they had a Orthodox synagogue right outside of Century Village in Deerfield Beach. And then we started, and we went from little the first place we started, and how it was started, was in the clubhouse of Las Brisas, because my neighbor, who was not Jewish, said, "Why don't you meet here in the clubhouse?" And little me said, "I don't think it's a good idea." But I was an officer, she was an officer, and that's how it started, in the clubhouse, and we progressed from there. And it took me, my husband passed away, he passed away in 1989, and so I was left on my own, and I was determined that there would be a synagogue. It took 9 years that we went from one place to another, near Publix, finally near Winn-Dixie. We rented places, and then we bought property where it is now, and it became the Young Israel of Boca Raton. And as I say, there was a lot of competition between the large synagogue and Young Israel. Boca Raton Synagogue prospered, grew, wonderful. More and more people came. And if you want me to bring you up to date.
I want a clarification, because I want to make sure I've got the history correct. So when you came, the Boca Raton Synagogue existed?
No, it did not exist. It
Okay.
was in the process of building.
I see. So where was it that you were having congregational
Well,
activities?
we were able to meet in people's homes. There was one apartment that was available in one of the neighborhood right there, one of the areas, and we were given that apartment to have our meeting per services. First there was the clubhouse, Friday night and Saturday morning. Then we went to this person's home, and then from there we went to, we rented from near Publix. There was a vacant place, and then we went to the Winn-Dixie area. We had services there. And during that time, the Boca Raton Synagogue was growing, and they grew and they built, because the people that came originally were quite affluent. They came from, as I said, Iran, England, and their practice was a lot different than the Orthodox manner that we were accustomed to.
So did you split off then? Is that what happened?
It wasn't a split off, because actually, there's just 4 couples and this one man. We decided that, and one of my friends told me at the time that anything past Atlanta, Georgia, Orthodox people observe differently. So I guess we started the Young Israel in my living room. Must have been about 1988 that we started, 87 or 88, I'm not quite sure. And unfortunately, my husband passed away, as I said, and then I decided that I was determined. And the history there was that we were almost ready. The bank, we never had any problems. The bank was giving us a mortgage, and we were supposed to have the property where the nursing home is right now. And that fell through.
In Montoya Circle?
On Montoya Circle, where I don't remember the name of the nursing home, but it's there now. And then, miraculously, there was a couple that told us, this man said he's going to build us a synagogue. Of course, the other people and myself, we kind of could have laughed, but that's what happened, because property became available on the other side of Palmetto Park Road, and where we are now, the Young Israel of Boca Raton. And that property is very big, very large area. And the people who gave us the money to buy the property, his wife said that she would like to see the synagogue plus a school because of Rabbi Rabovsky. She loved him, everybody did, but as I say, we were a small group of people, not very affluent, and it was a struggle. It took me 9 years, and people told me it would never happen. We were never going to have that spot, but we did, because somebody else cares about it, somebody that has more power. And right now, the young Israel is there. And as I told you, that I'm happy to say that they now have a yeshiva for more than 50 young boys. And the plan is to expand the synagogue and have the yeshiva on the same property. So this lady's dream came true, and my dream happened. So I'm happy to say that it's there. And as I said, I attribute it to a blessing that all my efforts were sort of answered when I had the privilege of Rabbi Rabowski and his wife Ruth Rabowski and their children, a family of 8 children, and each and every one of them I helped bring up. So there was like an adopted family for me. And so being alone, I was never really alone. I had all these beautiful children, and Ruthie and the rabbi always, and her parents, very concerned about me, and I'm very proud. And now as I go back and they have their annual dinner, I'm the founder of it, and I've given a lot of praise, and I'm really very proud to be here to be able to tell you about this, because it's a dream that I had, and to see it happen and for it to all become, because there are many stories attached to it. Anything you'd like to know, I'll be happy to tell you.
Wonderful. So when we look at the struggle to build the synagogue, because of course money has to be raised, people need to be organized, people need to volunteer, and then of course there are the many decisions as to what that synagogue will look like in terms of what kind of community will it build. And it did build a community. When those early decisions were being made, what in the Orthodox community were you looking to provide that was not here at the time with the young Israel?
Well, I'm going to tell you, we were looking to build a synagogue that would be available for Orthodox people. And I'm going to tell you a story that happened while I was babysitting for the Rabowskis. They came back from a retreat that they had, and the Rosh Yeshiva, the head of the yeshiva, said that when you build an institute of truth and true Judaism, Orthodox way, it stands on legs with the word emes. They all have feet, each one, and that's what I'm proud to say we have. It's very difficult because religion is a personal thing. And to build a community, you don't do it by yourself. First of all, I'm a firm believer that there's a power bigger than we know that does this, because when I say the competition, having a small synagogue as compared to a larger one, that means that some people like a large one, some want a small one. And so therefore, it was meant to be. And from the beginning, people said, well, more people came, but we didn't have affluent people that came, and somehow we were always able to manage with the help of the people that were there, and it grew slowly. And I guess numbers didn't mean very much to us, because we had people who were snowbirds, people who had miraculous situations happened. And I know that it did, because I have many of them that I can tell you, but I attribute most of it, and it's to the rabbi and his wife, because they saw a bigger picture than I did.
How so?
How so? They look at people differently than I did. I have to tell you that, as an example, there was a couple that came to the clubhouse, which was very small. I mean, it held about 100 people. This couple came, and the lady and her husband, and when they left, I said to the rabbi, I said, they're not going to come back to us because her hat is too big for the clubhouse. Meaning that this particular couple was happy to be in a larger synagogue. Now, being in a small synagogue, you have to do something because you're visible. You know, in a small synagogue, I personally think that gratifying to people is the fact that they can do this. You can build something. But that was my feeling. And people are very different than I am as well, you know, and I attribute it to the fact that not everybody's the same. So that's my story, and there are many stories that happened.
Did they come back?
No.
No. It was
No, they went to the Boca Raton Synagogue, which is bigger, more people, different kind of people. I don't want to say anything negative about any place, because my belief at the time when I was helping to build this would be that there would be many more synagogues. When we went to build the synagogue in West Palm Beach, we had restrictions at the time. The parking lot is bigger than the building. We could only build 2,000 square feet. And that was because monetary problem and the fact that we had to have this great big parking lot and lights and things that we never dreamed we would have to raise money for. But it happened, and now, as I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing more progress because of the building being expanded and hopefully the yeshiva being there, because between Miami and Boca Raton there is no Orthodox yeshiva. So it's a big plus.
So this is the first yeshiva in Boca Raton?
Boca. Yes,
okay.
It's the first.
Now, when we look at what New Israel is today, all these years later, how would you describe the community?
The community is composed of, because they have a Hebrew, they have the yeshiva is there's a school called Torah Academy, which made the community pretty much what it is today. So therefore you have the teachers, the rabbis, and people who came to live in the community. Now, Montoya Circle was always the place to be. That was where people wanted to live because it was near the Boca Raton Synagogue, so that community. Today, the area where the Young Israel is now, also very, very hard to find location, and the community has grown because of the teachers, the rabbis, and people buying homes. It's very hard to find a home today. The property, in fact, right next to the house that the rabbi lives in was a normal little house. There was a nice circle there called Napa Court. Today, somebody has come, bought that house next to them, is tearing it down completely and building something that's going to be very big. That happened on the other side where Montoya Circle is. People with money coming from different places, Canada, Europe, wherever they're coming, America, are able to put up $1 million homes, which we never expected when we started back in 1987.
Are you seeing, can you describe to me, Helene, the growth of the Orthodox community in addition to what you're seeing at New Israel?
Yes.
Has it become attractive to be?
Yes, now if you talk about Boca Raton to anybody that's Orthodox, they know that there's an area there because there's a kosher market that grew and is unbelievable. I mean, their products and their service, and the community now has wonderful bakeries, wonderful, I mean, it keeps growing, and restaurants, and right not far from where we are, called Camino Real, there are 3 magnificent kosher restaurants, and people who come from New York and elsewhere to visit Boca or come to Florida are very happy to have all these amenities, because it's grown to a point where people are very affluent and they come, and it's people living there not all affluent. It's this is what it is. There are places on Montoya Circle where I lived. Some of them, I can name some of them, but some of them are, there's only one gated community, and that isn't the big one, but most of the people went to Boca Raton Synagogue, lived on that circle, and now the other side is also, so that means the whole community, the whole area has changed, and there are other synagogues now too.
Yes, it's expanded beyond Montoya Circle to,
Yes.
What can you give us a description of, here we are in 2016, what is the Orthodox community in Boca Raton at this time? Do you know offhand how many synagogues
A
there
lot.
are?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the numbers because I mean, actually,
Right.
I made Aliyah. I went to Israel, and I've been back and forth because my granddaughter is there, my family. So I've been going, and now I moved to Pembroke Pines, Century Village, to be closer to my family because my son and his family are there. And they are afraid as I'm getting older that I would need help or whatever. So I still feel my heart is in Boca.
We have a lot of, I know I read something recently, Helene, that talks about the Orthodox community being among the fastest growing, perhaps the fastest growing Jewish community in the Boca Raton area. Would you say that would be something consistent with what your experience is?
Yes.
And why is it growing so quickly then?
Why is it growing? Because when a person is Orthodox and wants to have a nice home, we have a lot of snowbirds in that area. They live in New York, they live Canada, they have this, but there's a lot of affluence, that has developed over the years. People have become affluent, and therefore there are very few places that you can want to, let's say, as a young, in my experience, from seeing the growth, more and more young people with families, with babies and children, have made Boca Raton the place that it is. Because when you come with little children, then you need the schools and you need all the facilities, because you can't be traveling to North Miami Beach to get food when you have 3, 4, 5. And most of them have large families, thank God, because it's great to be in a place where there are little children and you see the growth there. And the community has grown. Thanks again to the rabbi, in my opinion, Rabbi Rybowski and his wife and the children, who are sort of the center. Ruthie Rybowski, lots of classes, and they're concerned about Orthodox Judaism and have done a lot for people who came, we had a number of families that came that were, I won't say reformed, maybe conservative, but because of their staying in the community, they've grown to be more practicing Orthodox Jews.
So it's not just people who grow up Orthodox who are necessarily becoming part of the community.
No, we have a lot of people, thanks to Ruthie and the rabbi, because they are unbelievable. And as I said, the truth of what Orthodox Judaism is portrayed in Boca Raton, in my opinion, in that area. Now, if a young couple wants to come and they go to North Miami Beach, that may be less expensive, but it's not as pretty, and they don't have as many young people now. It's also grown. South Florida, from Miami Beach all the way up to Boca. Now I understand even further. I'm not into the real estate business, but I understand there are communities now in Boynton Beach, and there's Deerfield Beach has a large Orthodox community as well. There are many of them snowbirds, but the Young Israel in Deerfield Beach has over 1,000 members. So it's grown to the point where it's really, the bubble is.
So the synagogue doesn't have just one location. There are
other synagogues. I mean, Young Israel has one area. Boca Raton Synagogue has another area, which is pretty close. And people are expanding it because they're moving to rental places, because a lot of people that are coming, teachers, haven't got the money to pay the rents, and there are no apartment buildings. So it's difficult. The areas that are there's one small place that people can move to, not terribly expensive, and then people that are coming are making it a bigger community, a larger community.
There's a transition in all of Judaism, it seems, as modern times come to create a different style of worship, a different style of practicing Judaism, a different style of community. And I'm wondering what you can tell me about the Orthodox community as to how the modern world has impacted on Orthodoxy in a way to make it it's very interesting that the community keeps growing. Is it growing in the traditional way that you had looked at maybe 30 or 40 years ago, or that your parents would have observed Orthodox Judaism, or is it different today?
No, it's what Orthodox Judaism is. This is what I'm trying to put to say. What happens is, yes, I'm fully aware that every part of Judaism today, from Reformed, Conservative, and Orthodox, are having problems because the older people, like myself, that practice as Orthodox people, are dying off, not well. And I had experience where years ago I was facilitated a senior group at the Jewish Community Center. And they showed, when I went to a conference, they showed a triangle. And up top was 100-year-olds and the bottom was young people. Now that's not the case. They said in 20, 25 years here in Florida, you're going to have the triangle upside down. You're going to have the long part of it. That's where the old people are, and then at the bottom you're going to have the younger people. But the people that come to this community, that I think that most of them are observing traditionally the same as we did before, but comes the problem of being more affluent. So that's the modern world today. If you want to see iPods and you want to see iPhones, they're right there. The children have them the same as the rest of the world. So what can I say? I think that I personally see the community in Boca Raton that I'm familiar with, the people that come to this young Israel observe it the way that their parents did and hope that their children will. I mean, that's what I see.
Has Modern Orthodox made an impact in our community here?
Modern Orthodox? Yes. There's Modern Orthodox, and there's more than Modern Orthodox, and I don't know how else to say it. You know, I'm not, I see things a little differently than other people, and Modern Orthodox is a little bit more difficult now because Modern Orthodox went out the way when my age. There are people there that are, yes, there's still people, Modern Orthodox in Young Israel of Boca Raton, and it's hard for me to differentiate. As far as I'm concerned, the true Orthodox way of life that I was taught is there at the Young Israel of Boca Raton. I don't know about any place else because I don't go any place else. I mean, that's where my heart is, and that's where I feel I'm pleased to say the growth has gone, and I think most people that come for that reason. But I think the whole community is beautiful. It's nice to see all the availability, and I have friends that are completely irreligious and still buying in the kosher market because it's good, it's plentiful, and it's there.
When we look at the Boca Raton that you and Milton found when you came here in the mid-'80s and the Boca Raton that you see today, what would you say are the most startling differences in the Jewish community?
There was none when we came. We were maybe 6, 7 families, and now there are many, many more. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I know that today, 6 or 7 families. I mean, what were we available? There was nothing available for us. There was no what I could consider a Jewish community. There were Jewish people living there, but completely not interested in a synagogue because there was no synagogue. And then all of a sudden, there were 2 synagogues. And now there are more than that. But different people come to each of the synagogues. That's how I can describe it. I can't, I don't know how people live, you know.
When you first got here, did you feel that there was any sense of people not being welcoming to Jews?
No. We never had anything like that. The only thing that we had a rabbi who's now in Israel, who came one time to Boca and spoke at our synagogue, little synagogue. And he said when he was younger and he was out doing some preparation for Passover, they never stopped in Boca Raton because they knew that there would be problems. There were problems then. Yes, there were problems. Most of the people that lived near the ocean. See, the property that became available was on Power Line Road that was owned by the oil companies. And when that was put into for public, different developers came. You had Boca Raton Country Club, Boca West, you had all these different places, Polo Club, and they came from all over. The Jewish people came. But as far as the Orthodox, there was nothing. I mean, there was nobody there. So it was a struggle. And now it's fortunately, most people who are interested in coming to Florida for whatever reason, whether it's employment. Remember, when we came, IBM was still in Boca. And now when IBM, they did not rent, people didn't rent to everybody in IBM. And we had people in our synagogue whose parents came and were working for IBM. And they did not accept Jews or Negroes or black people. They had to live in Pompano Beach. But that's not the case today. I don't believe that. I mean, it's loaded with all different people. So, as I say, I'm not in the real estate and I don't know exactly, but it's a big difference.
Among the people that you know in your community, are you looking, could you give me an idea of how professionally things have changed? What opportunities are available for young people? They're moving here with families, and obviously there's when we look back a generation or two, manufacturing was incredibly important, but now things have changed with the economy in Boca Raton.
Yeah.
What are the people finding for their employment here?
Well, about when I was living in Las Brisas, and a young doctor and his wife came, and they came to me because I was Orthodox and whatever. They came from Muncie, New York, doctor and his wife, and I said, what are you doing here? You know, why are you here? And he said, well, he's opening up a practice. He's working with a practice that was not in Boca, but he could live in Boca. See, that was it. The practice was elsewhere. And today there are people who have come. It's hard. It's difficult. Most of the people that I know came semi-retired, and people who are still working. And today you have physicians, you have young people coming who are in the accountants, and they're not only, they're living in Boca, but working in North Miami Beach. Some of them live in North Miami Beach because they can't afford Boca. And I think the whole area of South Florida has a place for everybody. I think there's a lot of opportunity because new businesses started. And you have computer people, you have people traveling. I don't know, as I say, many of them. I've often asked some people when they came to our synagogue, what made you come to Boca? Many of them said the area being young and growing. It's beautiful. Florida is beautiful. They came from, you know, they like the climate. And a lot of professionals there. There are many doctors. I can't imagine. There's a lot of people that own veterinarian places. So there is opportunity. And I think all of South Florida has that privilege because if you're young, you start out in one place, and then if things get better, you can come to where it's a little bit more affluent.
Let's talk a bit about the young people. As we see, it's so important in the lives of so many families that their children have every opportunity possible, but it's also very important to think that one day they might go to school but come back. Do you think that the growing community in Boca has a place for young people to make their professions here?
Yes, absolutely. And it is happening because as the proof of it is, two of the Rabowski children who were living up in New York are back in Florida, not in Boca, in North Miami Beach, because there they could afford, but they're visiting their parents and come back to Boca. So it's interesting that you ask that question because, yes, they have friends, lots of friends. A lot of the young people live in some of the Miami Beach. Some of them come into Boca, some of them to North Miami Beach. Hollywood, big congregation of Hollywood in Hollywood, which is near Pembroke Pines. And all that is South Florida. I remember this one man, rabbi, doctor, and he said when he first came, they said there would never be anything like this There would be no Jews no Jews in South Florida because there was nobody here. And then all of a sudden, the people started coming, and for whatever reason, each of them come. And yes, there's tremendous growth, and I think that there is room for more growth. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you have New York as the biggest growth, biggest population of Jews, and then it's either California or Florida now.
Well, I do know that there are statistics that right now, just in Boca Raton, over 50% of the population identifies as Jewish. So we are considered by people who keep these statistics as being in Boca Raton the most densely populated neighborhood of Jews, as I understand it, outside of Israel.
I did not know that.
And now we see why. I have one other question for you. When we talked about the yeshiva and the young children who are now being educated in the Orthodox way and so on, when you look at those children and what they're learning and how they view Judaism for themselves, what do you see them contributing as we get? Are you seeing people who are dedicated to Orthodoxy and dedicated to Judaism in a way that you have a sense of confidence that they are going to stay?
Absolutely, absolutely. Not only that, there's a great allegiance to Israel amongst Orthodox people in Boca. They are very, very concerned about, including myself and my friends and people that I associate with, and I would like to see more Jewish people realize that Israel is extremely important for us as Jews. I don't want to differentiate anymore, whether it's Orthodox, Reform. To me, it doesn't matter. I don't want to see labels. I want people to realize that we have a very dedicated, we should have a very dedicated feeling towards Israel, because there are the people there with the lone soldiers and people that are protecting my granddaughter who's in the army, protecting Israel for all of us. And I think that without Israel, we won't have what we have here. The privilege of having a community where we don't have to worry, hopefully, dear God, they're going to start, there is much more security now at the synagogue. The Homeland Security has helped, and people are volunteering to help, because you know that all over the world we have problems. And then we're not going to be exempt forever. That's my feeling, and I feel that it's interesting that Jewish people will unite when there's problems, but we should be able to unite when there is no problem. That's my hope. That's my prayer.
I have one last question for you then, Helene. When you look at all that has been accomplished with Young Israel here in Boca Raton over the many years since the early days, and you look back on that, what are you most proud of?
Most proud of? I'm proud of the people that have moved here. I'm proud of the people that have made Boca Raton in Young Israel and the surrounding areas happy to be here and happy to live here and to educate their children properly, whether they're giving them more education, Hebrew education. To me, education would solve a lot of problems if people throughout the world, Christians, Jews, everybody would know that education is really the basic problem of what our problem is today, in my humble opinion. Because people who grow up knowing to kill and to do things that are horrible, they have education too, but it should be geared to what the world is like. There should be peace for the world. That's my dream, all over the world, and not see maniacs and people who are murderers. I mean, I can't fathom how that can be. So I have my own problem with that. I find it to be horrible. I have no other word. It's horrific.
I'm going to ask you, I lied, I said it was the last question, but I just want to know, if you were talking to someone who lived outside of Boca who was considering coming here, what would you say about the Jewish community here and what they would find?
Very warm, very welcoming, very happy to have new people come. Very happy in the Young Israel, and I don't know any of the other synagogues, but wherever I am, I'm always happy to see new people come, and young people especially, because that's the growth of what's going to be. I mean, we have no choice. I mean, living in Century Village, we have people 100 years old and such who are definitely not Orthodox, and some are. We had all over, it's diminishing. All three synagogues. In Pembroke Pines, it's an unusual thing that you have Reformed, Conservative, and Orthodox synagogue on the premises, which is no place else. So they were there, and I guess somehow, I don't know who rules the world. I think I do, but we have to just wait and see. There was a movie that said, if you build it, they'll come, right?
That's right.
And I think that's what happened with the community that I see. We built it, and people are coming. And the pioneers who built it struggled. We did. It was, I'm not going to think about it, because it was a tough job. It was tough. Somebody said a lot of things about me. She's a tough lady, and I did. I persevered. And when you tell me don't do something, and I feel that I should, I work harder. So I did, and I'm very happy, very proud of what's there now. And I hope and pray that it just gets bigger and that it stays safe, and that the community throughout, wherever there are Jews, they don't bother us. That's all that I pray for. That's what I can say.
Thank you.
And I thank you very much for honoring me and asking me to come and do this, because it's very emotional for me. Really is. I'm very honored to be part of your study. It was my son who saw it in the newspaper, and he encouraged us. And I think that the other people that you have that looking forward will feel the same way that I did, because it's great. And Boca is beautiful, and South Florida is beautiful, and I'm glad that we've come to the conclusion that we're either second or third.
Well, thank you so very much, Helene Kalkstein, for coming to talk with us and for sharing your stories. And thank you for all your volunteerism for this community and how you have helped to shape everything for us as well. So on behalf of the Boca Raton Historical Society, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for having me. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.